Ambassador Veltar's hands shook as he floated in the docking bay of the human space station. His crystalline body, usually glowing with confidence, now flickered like a dying light bulb. For 3,000 years, his people had ruled the stars alongside the other council races. They had built great cities that floated in space, created technology that could bend reality itself, and lived in perfect peace across 100 worlds. But all of that was ending now. The Vrex Dominion had come from the dark spaces between galaxies, like hungry wolves. They didn't just conquer planets, they ate them. Literally consumed entire worlds, turning beautiful garden planets into empty husks floating in space. The Council's mighty fleets, with all their advanced weapons and shields, had lasted about as long as paper boats in a hurricane against the Vrex bioships. Commander Jack Williams sat behind his metal desk, looking completely ordinary in his simple blue uniform. No fancy robes, like council members wore. No glowing crystals or floating tech. Just a middle-aged human with graying hair and tired eyes, drinking something called coffee from a plain white cup. This was supposed to be their savior. This unremarkable creature from a backwater planet that the council had barely noticed until 5 years ago. "Let me get this straight," Williams said, setting down his cup. "You folks showed up here half a decade ago, took one look at Earth, and called us barbarians. Your exact words were violent primitives who somehow survived on a death world. Your scientists wrote papers about how humans were too aggressive to join civilized society, and now you want our help?" Veltar's translator made uncomfortable crackling sounds as he struggled to find words. The human was right, of course. When first contact happened, the Council had been horrified by Earth. The planet was a nightmare world where everything tried to kill everything else. Massive storms that could level cities, earthquakes that split continents, volcanoes that blocked out the sun, and somehow, impossibly, humans had not only survived, but thrived in this chaos. The Council had studied human history with growing disgust. These creatures fought constant wars. They created weapons designed specifically to cause maximum suffering. They had sports where people hurt each other for entertainment. Their children played games that simulated violence. Even their stories and movies celebrated conflict and destruction. Clearly, they were too dangerous to be trusted with advanced technology or membership in the peaceful Galactic Council. Commander Williams Veltar began, his voice barely above a whisper. "We have lost 17 worlds in the past month. The Vrex ships number in the millions now. Our children. They take our children and use them to feed their breeding pools. Our greatest warriors cannot even scratch their bio-armor. Every weapon we fire only makes them stronger." Williams leaned forward slightly. Despite his casual appearance, Veltar could see something dangerous flickering behind the human's eyes, like looking into the eyes of a sleeping tiger. "Our fleets are dying," Veltar continued, his pride finally breaking completely. "The Melodian homeworld has 3 days before the Vrex finish consuming it. Billions will die. After that, they move to the core worlds. In 6 months, the Galactic Council will be nothing but empty space and scattered refugees." The human commander was quiet for a long moment, just staring at the alien ambassador. Outside the station's windows, Mars hung like a red ball in the darkness. Such a small, ordinary planet compared to the crystal cities and garden worlds of the Council. But right now, it was their only hope. "So you need warriors," Williams said finally. "People who understand violence. People who know how to fight dirty and win at any cost." "Yes," Veltar whispered, feeling his centuries of civilization crumbling away. "We were wrong about you. Please help us." Dr. Rachel Torres had seen many strange reactions during first contact procedures, but nothing quite like this. The Council delegation of 12 aliens from different species had arrived on Earth 3 days ago, and each hour seemed to bring fresh horror to their crystalline and scaled faces. What humans considered a simple nature walk through the Denver biodome had turned into something resembling a horror movie for their guests. The trouble started in the domestic animal section. A simple orange tabby cat named Whiskers had wandered over to investigate the strange visitors. The moment the cat appeared, Ambassador Crystal's four arms began trembling violently. His people, the Zephyrians, were tall and thin with pale blue skin that changed colors based on their emotions. Right now, Crystal was flashing bright yellow, which Rachel had learned meant absolute terror. "This creature," Crystal whispered, pointing at Whiskers with one shaking finger. "It has forward-facing eyes, retractable claws, enhanced hearing. This is clearly an apex predator designed for hunting and killing." Rachel blinked in surprise. "Oh, that's just Whiskers. He's our office cat. Pretty friendly little guy." She reached down and scratched behind the cat's ears, causing it to purr loudly. The sound made 3 council members immediately faint and collapse onto the biodome floor. "You ... You touch it voluntarily," gasped Commander Dikarin, a reptilian being whose scales were now standing straight up in fear. "And it makes threatening vocalizations when you do." "He's purring," Rachel explained patiently, while medics helped the unconscious aliens. "It means he's happy. Lots of humans have cats as pets. We keep them in our homes. Kids play with them." The delegation exchanged horrified looks. On their worlds, anything with claws and hunting instincts was either extinct or locked away in maximum security facilities. The idea of deliberately living with predators seemed like collective insanity. Things got worse when they moved to the canine section. A friendly golden retriever named Max bounded over to greet the visitors, tail wagging and tongue hanging out. The sight of an 8-pound predator had been bad enough, but this 60-pound creature sent the entire delegation into complete panic. 2 more aliens fainted, and Ambassador Crystal actually climbed onto Dr. Tora's shoulders in terror. "Good boy, Max," Rachel said, petting the dog normally. "This is a golden retriever. They're known for being especially gentle with children. Many human families have several of these." "Several," Veltar croaked from behind a protective barrier the security team had hastily erected. "You keep multiple pack hunters in your homes with your offspring." Rachel was starting to understand that the gap between human and alien thinking was much bigger than anyone had realized. "Well, yes. Dogs have been human companions for thousands of years. They help us hunt, protect our homes, guide the blind, find lost people, detect drugs and bombs. Some even help with therapy and emotional support." The delegation spent the next hour in the medical bay, recovering from shock while Rachel tried to explain the concept of domestication. The aliens simply couldn't understand how humans had taken wild predators and turned them into beloved family members. On council worlds, evolution had produced mostly herbivores and filter feeders. The few carnivores that existed were small, timid creatures that hid from everything larger than insects. But the real breakdown came that evening, during what humans considered normal weather. Storm clouds had been building all afternoon, and by 6 o'clock, a typical summer thunderstorm was rolling across Colorado. Rain began patting against the windows of the human diplomatic facility where the aliens were staying. Then the first thundercrack hit. The sound was like the world splitting in half. Ambassador Crystal screamed and threw himself under the nearest table. Veltar's crystalline body went completely dark as he curled into a ball on the floor. The other 10 delegates either fainted, started crying, or began frantically trying to dig into the concrete floor with their bare hands. General Rick Thompson, who had been giving a presentation about human military history, stopped mid-sentence and stared at the chaos. Folks, you okay down there? The sky is attacking." Crystal screamed from under the table. "Sound weapons. Energy discharge. We're all going to die." Through the window, General Thompson could see human children playing in the rain outside, laughing and splashing in puddles. Their parents sat on porches, drinking beer and watching the light show. To humans, thunderstorms were relaxing background noise. Many people actually slept better during storms. It's just weather, Thompson said, genuinely puzzled by their reaction. You know, water falling from clouds. The lightning is just electrical discharge, completely natural. Veltar peeked out from his protective ball, his crystalline surface flickering weakly. Your planet attacks you with energy weapons, and you consider this normal? Well, yeah. Actually, lots of humans find storms kind of peaceful. The sound helps people sleep. The aliens stared at him in complete disbelief. Their homeworlds had weather, sure, but gentle rains and mild breezes. The idea of an atmosphere that regularly exploded with the force of nuclear weapons was beyond their comprehension. Your planet tries to kill you every single day, Veltar whispered, and somehow, you enjoy it. General Thompson shrugged, watching lightning dance across the sky. Makes us stronger, I guess. Plus the storm's water, our crops and fill our rivers. Pretty useful, really. Admiral Kevin Bradley floated in the command center of Titan Station, looking out at the largest military gathering in human history. 300 warships hung in the darkness like sleeping giants, their black hulls absorbing light and giving nothing back. Each vessel bore names that made the alien observers shudder just reading them. The flagship was called Final Warning. Behind it floated Diplomatic Solution, Peaceful Negotiation, and Humanitarian Crisis. Humans, it seemed, had a twisted sense of humor even when preparing for war. The alien delegation huddled together in the observation deck, their various forms of skin changing colors rapidly as stress hormones flooded their systems. They had asked for help, yes, but seeing humanity's war machine up close was like asking for a guard dog and getting a pack of wolves instead. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Bradley's voice boomed across every communication channel, reaching over 2 million human sailors, marines, pilots, and support crew scattered throughout the fleet. 6 months ago, these folks came to us asking for help. They said the Vreks were wiping out entire civilizations, eating planets, taking children. Well, that stops today. Captain Jennifer Walsh stood on the bridge of her dreadnought, inevitable consequence, watching her weapons officer run through final checks. The ship was 1,200 meters of pure destruction, carrying enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Her crew of 800 had been handpicked from veterans of the Mars colonial wars, people who understood that sometimes violence was the only language certain enemies understood. "Ma'am," called her weapons officer, a cheerful young man named Danny Cooper. "All systems green. Nuclear-tipped, kinetic penetrators, loaded in tubes, 1 through 40. Plasma cannons charged and ready. Point defense systems active. Oh, and the coffee machine in Deck 7 is working again." The ship's AI programmed with an aggressively positive personality that humans found reassuring but made aliens deeply uncomfortable, chimed in with its usual enthusiasm. "Good morning, crew. Today's forecast calls for heavy enemy fire with a chance of boarding actions. Remember to wear your blast helmets and have a simply wonderful day of extreme violence." Ambassador Crickstall, watching from the observation deck, felt his 4 stomachs churning as he tried to understand human military thinking. The weapons these creatures had developed didn't just kill enemies. They were designed to cause maximum psychological trauma to anyone who witnessed them being used. Kinetic penetrators that could punch through a kilometer of solid armor, plasma, weapons that burned at temperatures found inside stars. Nuclear warheads attached to projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. But what truly horrified the aliens was watching the human Marines prepare for combat. Colonel Bobby Martinez commanded 30,000 of Earth's finest warriors, and their training exercises were taking place in conditions that would instantly kill most Council species. The Marines practiced boarding actions in hard vacuum, wearing powered armor that looked more like walking tanks than protective gear. "Watch this," Colonel Martinez called out to the alien observers as his troops began their demonstration. "Squad Alpha, Show our guests the standard zero-gravity breach protocol. 20 Marines launched themselves across empty space toward a mock enemy ship, moving at speeds that should have turned their bodies into liquid. They hit the target hull with impacts that rang like thunder through the station's speakers, then began cutting through meter-thick armor plating with handheld tools that glowed like tiny suns. The armor suits, explained Sergeant Paula Johnson, to the traumatized aliens, can operate in temperatures from absolute zero to about 3,000 degrees. They're radiation shielded, pressure sealed, and equipped with magnetic boots for walking on ship hulls during combat. Each suit has enough life support for 72 hours of continuous fighting. Ambassador Veltar watched in growing horror as human soldiers performed maneuvers that defied every law of physics and common sense. They fought in environments where his people would be instantly vaporized. They laughed and joked while preparing weapons that could destroy cities. Most disturbing of all, they seemed genuinely excited about the upcoming battle. "Your warriors," Veltar whispered to Admiral Bradley. "They enjoy this." Bradley looked out at his fleet with something that might have been pride, or might have been sadness. "Doc, most of these people signed up to protect Earth and her colonies. They've seen what happens when good people don't fight back against monsters. Yeah, they're good at violence. That's the point. But they're also good at knowing when violence is necessary and when it isn't." The Admiral's expression hardened as he continued. "The Vrex made a mistake when they started eating Council worlds. They made an even bigger mistake when they started taking kids. See, humans have this thing about protecting children. Doesn't matter whose children they are. We'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime to keep kids safe." Captain Walsh's voice crackled over the comm system as her ship's engines began warming up. "Fleet Command, this is inevitable consequence. All systems ready for hyperspace jump. Crew reports ready for extended combat operations." Similar reports flooded in from across the fleet. 300 ships, 2 million humans, all preparing to travel across the galaxy to fight an enemy they'd never seen before. All because someone was hurting children. The alien observers watched in stunned silence as humanity prepared to unleash organized violence on a scale their peaceful civilizations had never imagined. They had asked for warriors, and Earth had given them something far more terrifying. They had given them humans who believed they were doing the right thing. The space around Kepler 442 had been silent for weeks, filled only with the slow death of another world. The Vrex-feeding fleet hung in orbit like massive tumors, their bioships pulsing as they pumped the life out of the Melodian homeworld below. Billions of innocent people were trapped on the surface, watching their beautiful blue-green planet slowly turn gray and dead as the Vrex consumed everything from the oceans to the atmosphere itself. Commander Throckmor floated in his command pool, his 6 eyes focused on the feeding reports, scrolling across his organic displays. The Melodians had stopped fighting 3 days ago. Their pathetic little defense force had lasted about as long as an insect against a boot. Soon, this world would be another empty husk, and his fleet could move on to the next Council planet. The galaxy was full of soft, weak species, just waiting to be harvested. Then reality twisted, and 300 human warships exploded into normal space. Like angry hornets bursting from a kicked nest, the first thing that hit the Vrex was the sound. Every human ship was broadcasting at maximum power, flooding all communication frequencies with something the Vrex had never experienced before. Heavy metal music mixed with crowd noise from human sporting events, the sound of millions of people cheering for violence and competition. Guitars screamed over the roar of stadium crowds, while announcers shouted about victories and defeats in games where humans deliberately hurt each other for entertainment. "What is that noise?" Throckmor hissed, his bioship's organic circuits struggling to filter out the audio assault. "This is Admiral Kevin Bradley to all Vrex forces," came a calm human voice cutting through the chaos. "You've been bothering our new friends down there. We're here to discuss your immediate departure from this system. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal, or we start making your day significantly worse. Throckmer's response was a sound that roughly translated to laughter, though it came out as more of a wet, gurgling noise. Soft mammals think they can threaten the Vrek's dominion. We have consumed 1,000 worlds. Your little metal toys cannot even scratch our bio toys. The 30 seconds passed in silence. Then hell arrived with human efficiency. Captain Jennifer Walsh's dreadnought. Inevitable consequence accelerated directly toward the largest Vrek's bioship, ignoring every tactical rule ever written. Instead of the careful, long-range bombardment that Council fleets used, the humans were charging straight into close combat, like berserkers from ancient Earth legends. All hands brace for ramming speed, Walsh announced over her ship's intercom, her voice filled with excitement rather than fear. Today we show these bugs why you don't mess with Earth's friends. The Vrek's bioship's shields were designed to absorb energy weapons and deflect kinetic projectiles. They were not designed to stop a 1,200-meter dreadnought moving at significant fractions of light speed. The inevitable consequence punched through the bioship's defenses like a bullet through tissue paper, her reinforced prow tearing a massive hole in the enemy vessel's living hull. Yahoo! Direct hit, shouted Walsh's weapons officer as they emerged from the other side of the Vrek's ship, trailing biological debris and glowing plasma, firing all guns. The human ship pivoted impossibly fast for something its size, bringing all 40 of its main cannons to bear on the wounded bioship at point-blank range. Nuclear-tipped kinetic penetrators slammed into organic armor at velocities that should have been impossible, each impact releasing energy equivalent to small atomic bombs. Throckmer watched in growing horror as his flagship was torn apart by weapons that seemed designed specifically to cause maximum destruction in the most violent way possible. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was listening to the human crew cheering and laughing as they destroyed his ship, like children playing their favorite game. Sir, his navigation officer gurgled in panic, the smaller human vessels are performing impossible maneuvers. Their pilots should be dead from the acceleration forces. Throckmer focused his attention on the human fighter craft swarming around his fleet. The pilots were pulling turns that should have turned their bodies into liquid, accelerating and decelerating at rates that would kill any sane species. But these humans kept fighting, kept laughing, kept treating lethal physics like minor inconveniences. Boarding. Pods incoming, screamed his security chief. They're trying to board us. Impossible. Throckmer snarled. The space around our ships is flooded with radiation. Nothing can survive in that environment. But the human marines were already cutting through his hull with tools that burned brighter than stars. Colonel Bobby Martinez led the first wave, his powered armor allowing him to work in conditions that would instantly vaporize most life forms. The Marines moved through hard vacuum like they were taking a casual stroll, chatting with each other over their comm systems, about sports scores and weekend plans, while they methodically tore apart a bioship from the inside. These humans are completely insane, Throckmer screamed as explosions began rocking his command center. They fight in conditions that should kill them. They laugh while destroying our ships. They're treating this like some kind of game. His communication officer's response was cut short by the sound of human marines blasting through the bulkhead behind them. The first thing through the hole was a human soldier in massive powered armor, carrying weapons that belonged in a nightmare. The Marine looked around the organic command center, took in the scene of terrified Vrek's commanders, and spoke into his helmet communicator. Command, this is Sergeant Paula Johnson. We've got the bridge. Looks like about 20 enemy personnel, all wetting themselves in fear. Should we accept surrender, or do you want us to keep up the aggressive negotiations? The voice that came back over the comm was cheerful and professional. Rules of engagement remain in effect. Sergeant, accept, surrender, secure prisoners, and try not to break anything important. We still need to figure out how their work. Throckmor stared at the human soldier in complete disbelief. These creatures had just torn his fleet apart with casual efficiency, but now they were talking about following rules and taking prisoners. What kind of species could switch from berserker rage to professional conduct in the span of seconds? The battle for Kepler 442 lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. When it ended, the mighty Vrex Dominion was fleeing across the galaxy in complete panic, their bioships leaking atmosphere and biological fluids as they desperately tried to escape the human fleet. Commander Throckmor's flagship was drifting dead in space, its organic systems shut down after human marines had systematically captured every critical section of the vessel. But what happened next would change everything. The Galactic Council thought they knew about humanity. All medical teams, priority rescue operations now in effect. Admiral Kevin Bradley's voice echoed across the fleet communications. That includes Vrex survivors. I repeat, medical teams are to render aid to all casualties regardless of species. No one gets left behind. Ambassador Veltar, watching from the observation deck of the human command ship, felt his crystalline body flicker in confusion. These same humans who had just torn apart the Vrex fleet with terrifying efficiency were now ... helping their enemies. Captain Jennifer Walsh's crew aboard the Inevitable Consequence was still covered in battle damage, their ship scarred from ramming through enemy vessels at impossible speeds. Smoke drifted through the corridors, and emergency lights cast everything in a red glow. But instead of celebrating their victory, the crew was launching rescue shuttles toward the wreckage of Vrex bioships. "This is Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patricia Holmes," came a calm voice over the communications. "We're detecting life signs in sections 7 through 12 of the enemy flagship. Deploying emergency response teams now." Veltar watched through the viewing ports as human rescue shuttles moved carefully through the debris field, their pilots navigating around floating chunks of destroyed bioships to reach trapped Vrex survivors. The same humans who had been laughing and cheering while destroying the enemy fleet were now risking their lives to save the creatures who had been trying to kill them just minutes before. Colonel Bobby Martinez appeared in the observation deck, his powered armor dented and scorched from the boarding actions. His helmet was cracked, and green Vrex blood was splattered across his chest plates, but he was gently carrying an injured Vrex warrior in his arms. The alien was barely conscious, its chitinous shell cracked and leaking, but the human marine was treating it with the same care he would show a wounded comrade. "Medical Bay, this is Martinez," the colonel called out as he rushed toward the ship's hospital. "I've got a critical casualty here. Looks like internal bleeding and possible nervous system damage. This one's just a kid, probably forced into military service. Get me Dr. Holmes, immediately." Ambassador Veltar followed the colonel down the corridor, his mind struggling to understand what he was seeing. "Colonel Martinez," he called out, his translator crackling with confusion. "This creature was your enemy. It was trying to kill you. Why are you saving its life?" The human marine paused at the medical bay doors, looking down at the wounded Vrex in his arms. The alien was young, probably barely old enough to serve in their military. Its eyes were filled with pain and terror, expecting to be executed by these violent Deathworld predators. "Because that's what we do," Martinez replied simply. "We fight when we have to, but we help when we can. This kid didn't choose to be part of an invasion fleet. Look at him. He's scared and hurt, and probably just wants to go home to whatever family he has." Dr. Holmes burst through the medical bay doors, her team of medics following close behind with emergency equipment. "Get him on the table," she ordered, her hands already moving to assess the Vrex's injuries. "I need full bioscans and compatibility checks for our medical systems. We've never treated their species before, so we're going to have to figure this out as we go." General Rick Thompson arrived on the scene, monitoring the rescue operations through a portable command unit. His uniform was rumpled, and his hair was gray with exhaustion. but his eyes were focused on the reports streaming in from across the fleet. Hundreds of wreck survivors were being pulled from the wreckage, and human medical teams were working around the clock to save as many as possible. "I don't understand," Veltar whispered, watching human doctors and nurses treating wounded wrecks with the same dedication they would show their own people. "Your species fights with such violence, such terrible efficiency, but now you show mercy to those who would have consumed our worlds." Thompson looked up from his reports, giving the alien ambassador a tired but genuine smile. "You know what, Veltar? That's exactly the point. The whole reason we got so good at fighting is so we can protect the people who can't protect themselves. Being strong isn't about hurting others, it's about being able to choose kindness when others choose cruelty." The general gestured toward the medical bay, where Dr. Holmes was successfully stabilizing the young Vrex warrior. "That kid in there, he's probably going to live. He'll go home to his family, and maybe he'll tell them about the humans who could have killed him but chose to save him instead. Maybe next time his people think about conquering innocent worlds, they'll remember that there are consequences. But they'll also remember that mercy exists." Over the next 3 days, human rescue teams worked tirelessly to save every survivor they could find in the wreckage. They established field hospitals on captured wrecked ships, sharing their medical knowledge and supplies freely. When some Vrex commanders tried to activate self-destruct systems rather than accept human help, Marine boarding teams disabled the weapons while medics treated the wounded, regardless of rank or species. The transformation was remarkable to witness. Vrex warriors who had been trained from birth to see all other species as food slowly began to understand that these strange Deathworld creatures operated by completely different rules. Humans fought harder and more viciously than anyone in the galaxy, but they also showed compassion that went beyond anything the Vrex had ever experienced. Ambassador Veltar received the message from the Galactic Council 3 days after the battle ended. The formal invitation was brief but historic. Humanity was being offered not just membership in the Council, but leadership of the newly formed Galactic Peacekeeping Force. After witnessing how humans conducted themselves in victory, the Council had realized that sometimes the galaxy's most dangerous predators made the best protectors. The invitation concluded with a simple statement that would reshape galactic politics forever. Earth has proven that true strength lies not in the capacity for violence, but in the wisdom to know when violence serves justice and when mercy serves peace.